I was trying to think back, when did our Sabbath story start? How did we start to really wrestle with this concept of practicing Sabbath? And I remember the conversation happened in South Africa. We were visiting my friend and I was asking him, what kind of podcast is he listening to? How's he keeping himself sharp? How's he refreshing himself? And he just dropped into conversation that he's listening to John Mark Comer and he's listening to John Tyson. So I picked that up in the UK when we'd got back and began to go on this journey where this picture was painted of many practices of following Jesus, but one particular one that jumped out to me at that point was about Sabbath. Now, my friend Steve had touched on this when we were in South Africa, because as a team they were working in a township, and burnout was a very real threat. So suddenly to pick up this method, this theology and this practice around Sabbath from a totally different perspective when we were back in the UK was a real journey for me, and I loved it. Suddenly I realised that this wasn't about legalism. This wasn't about this kind of day that traps me, or a day that you can't do this and you can't do this. But it was a day that you can. It was a day of celebration. It was a day to make it different to the rest of the week. A little bit like a little mini Christmas, the best bits of Christmas, every week. It was a day to remember that we are not God and that He is. And to lay down all the things we produce, all the things that we have to achieve and do in our normal, all the 6 other days of the week, and to take for one day, a day to reflect and remember what He has done, who He is, and enjoy Him and all that He's given. So what does it look like for us? Well, it's a journey, but we started it in 2018 and we've realised some of the lessons along the way is you have to fight it. It's really countercultural. Many people thought we were a bit weird and a bit old-fashioned, but actually suddenly I realised we've got something so special. So we have to choose it and fight for it. And then we have to just make it work with the right season that we're in. We've got young kids. So for us, it looks like simple things as small as I have a day off, a Sabbath coffee mug that I choose that's different to any of my other mugs. And I love getting it out and making my favourite coffee. We'll have pastries in the morning and then pancakes at brunch. Basically, we eat most of the day. We'll be outside. We'll go for walks. We'll play games with the kids. Anything that helps us be present. We do family movies. I know some people choose to come completely off screens. But even on that, we do cut back on being on our phones, just so we can be present to the moment rather than having a day that feels like every other. So that's, I guess, a bit of how we do our Sabbath journey. And I can honestly say it's changed me. It's changed my family. And only the other day, Stu and I were reflecting that we are so grateful we had that during lockdown, that we already had this muscle growing of how to create a day where we would step back, we would rest and delight. Even when we couldn't even leave the house, we were just in the garden. It's kind of like celebrating out of the simplicity. We're so thankful for Sabbath, and I hope that you can go on your own journey with this resource, with this podcast, and discover the beauty and the joy and the peace of Sabbath.